On the western slopes of Goolaga, Mother Mountain for the Yuin people, lies Nick and Jenny's abundant small farm. In this series of videos, Nick shares the practical wisdom that led to this block of poor shaly soil to be transformed into a fertile and sustainable source of food and beauty.
Today we're going to build a food cell. A food cell is basically a protected area where we can put a food tree, fruit tree, and then we can plug chooks in to fertilise, do the pest control and manage an area of land. The first step for me in building a hexagonal food cell is to get a little jig happening, a little template out of string, so that we don't have to do any measuring at all. We just use a couple of pegs and some string and some hooks, and we can get an exact hexagon on the ground. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'll make a little hook. So it's just a bit of wire, a little bit of a pair of pliers. I'm going to make a rough hook here, it doesn't have to be fancy. So that's the hook. I'm going to put it on here to get exactly the right distance. So I've got a little mark on the bench. It's exactly 2.2 metres, so that the actual diameter of the hexagonal food cell is going to be 4.4 metres. So from one start of the arch to the end of the arch, that big arch, 4.4 metre diameter. That's the size we're going for. We can vary that, but this is the one we're going to go for at the moment. So I've got a hook on one end. I'm going to make a little knot in the middle, like that. It's exactly 2.2 metres. And then from there, I'm going to go back to this side. Put the screw in there. And put the hook on the other side, another hook on the other side. So we're going to have two hooks with a knot in the middle, and that's how we're going to make an exact triangle. We're going to end up with 6 triangles to make a hexagon. It's going to be perfect shape every time with no measuring. We need 3 9-metre pieces of 12mm Rio. We need some thin wire. We need some rabbit wire and some netting. And that's it. We need some C-clips to clip the netting onto the rabbit wire. That's it. The tools we need a bar, 14mm bar to hit into the ground to make the holes. We need a hammer to hit it in. We need a pair of vice grips so we can pull the bar out again. We use a string with a knot and a loop to make 6 perfect triangles to set it up. Got a pair of C-clip pliers and a pair of normal pliers for cutting wire. That's it, that's all we need to build a food cell. Okay, so we've got all our gear ready to build a food cell, and we're going to set it out, mark it out. So we've got our 2 hooks on our piece of builder's twine. I've got a peg here in the centre, which is just a screwdriver. I'm going to hook the 2 hooks on it and just check that it's where I want it to be. This is going to be roughly the area that the food cell's going to cover. So about 12 inches off that fence, it's in a great spot. The centre point is right. So that's the first thing to get right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the food cell on the contour. So you end up with a flat side, as you can see, with this one we built last week. You've got the flat side along the contour. Okay. So now I've already put a little peg over this side at 2.2 metres from the centre. Now the knot goes in the centre point. There's the knot there. And then this hook goes to where the first hole is going to go. So there it is there, ready to go. So I'm going to put a hole here and there for the first arch. Here we go. I use a bit of 14mm steel bar. I'm going to lean it back into myself a little bit, and then I'm going to bash it down to a mark of about 600mm or 2 foot. So the bar is going to go in 2 feet deep, 600mm into the ground. There it is. That's the spot. I use a pair of vice grips to pull the bar back out again, and I'm going to slip the Rio into that hole. So there it is, 600mm deep. You can go deeper, you can go shallower, that's totally up to you. So I'm going to bash in the first 2 holes and put the bar in. What I'll do is I line my body up with the line, the string and the hole. I'm going to lean that bar back a little bit and it ends up straightening out. Once the arch is there, that'll end up a bit straighter. So I'm leaning it back just a bit. Bashing that down to 600mm. Nice and deep. Okay, that's the second hole. So there's a hole there. I'll mark the hole with that point. Mark this hole over here. Now we're going to put the first 9-metre bar into the ground. Getting the first, or any of the bars up, is much easier with 2 people. So my assistant here, Sol's going to help me. You can do it on your own, it's a bit of a setup though. Watch the hole, we don't want to fill that in. So all I want you to do is basically hold this bar up and put your foot on it, but not near the hole. It doesn't have to be near the hole. Okay. So lift it up and jam it into the ground, Solly, and put your foot on it. That's it. Now I'll get this side in, if you just hold it nice and steady. So this wants to go in 600mm. Here we go. There it is, 600mm. There, beauty.
Beauty.
All right, let's just check. Yep, that's on the bottom. Okay, that's the first arch in. Nice, exactly in position. Yeah. So now we're using our template, our jig, whatever you like to call it, to mark out the next one. So we've got it hooked onto that side. I'll hook it onto here. Now there's a knot in the middle here. There it is. And that's exactly a triangle from there to there to there. This is the start of our next bar. So just repeat the process as before. Lean it back a little bit, back towards myself. Look over the top of that center point because that's where it wants to be. Bash it down to 600. And that's about 600 there. Undo it with the vice grips. Oh. There we go. Make the hole nice and clean. Right, that's another hole. Now we're going to go over to the opposite side. So we take our string again. Take it over this way. Around about here. Hook the hook onto this side. Get the knot. Okay, so the next, it doesn't have to be super accurate, but that's pretty close. And then we repeat the process. Just below that mark. There we go. So now we put the second arch up. Try and get it in it. There, that's beautiful. definitely in spot there. There's my hole. Oop. There we go, second arch in. All right, so now we just need to repeat that process for the third time. We can leave the hooks where they are for the first one and go to the last point here. There we go. Right on the knot. There's the next point, leaning back a little bit. You can see how hard this ground is. It's clay shale, but you'll see what happens in the next few years once the chooks and the food starts growing and the soil builds in fertility. You'll see the difference in a matter of no time. Right, we'll take the hook over to here. And there's the last point right here. Okay, we're going over the top. Okay, I'll get my end in, sit it on the right angle. There we go, that's at 600. And be careful you don't fill it in with dirt or anything, but that's clear. And there we are. There we go. Perfect hexagon. Okay, so we've got the 3 arches in the ground. Now we're going to just lock them together. Whoop. You can lock them in one, or you can lock them in a little triangle. I'll just lock it in one at this stage. I'll go around twice with the wire. Pull it up nice and tight using the pliers. Cut the end off. Leave about ½ an inch or so, whatever, and then bend it up out of the way. So when we put our net over it later on, it doesn't get tangled in that little pointy end. The next phase is the rabbit wire skirt. So I'm using 900mm high rabbit wire. It's very strong. You can whippersnip it against it. You know, foxes can't get into it. It's very strong wire. So I use 900, and we'll start off at the bottom here. Just clip it round to hold it in position. Just to hold it in place, and we'll work our way around. So I've used second-hand wire here. If you can ever get second-hand wire, it's obviously much better for the environment. And I've just joined 2 pieces together. We'll work our way around to start with, all the way around. Okay, that's going to be long enough. So I'll start at the bottom here. What we're going to do, just like we did with this food cell over here, is we're going to cut 7 notches up. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and cut that end off like this. And what we're doing is we're creating a little skirt all the way down like that. So you've got about 300mm on the ground, which stops wild animals like foxes from digging their way in. So we'll just hook that on temporarily like that and work our way around, all the way around. We can give it a little bit of tension, not too much. And we cut 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pull that down like that. Then I get a little bit of tie wire, go around here, and just to hold it into place. There it is, nice and neat. We're working our way around. So The skirt always wants to go downhill. If you're on flat land, that little skirt here can just go outwards. But if you're on a slope, I always slope it downhill so that wild animals can't dig in. They always try and dig from the bottom, and the chooks can't excavate their way out at the top. You'll see in a minute what I mean. 6, 7. Now this time, this one's going inside, like that. There we go. And then we get this wire again and just twitch it into place. We just work our way around. Now we've got one going in and one skirt coming out. Okay, I'll cut this down to size. We don't need too much excess. 5, 6, 7. Cut this excess off as well. And that's it. There. That looks pretty tidy. Then what I do is I will go around and just bend this up a little bit square, like that, just to tidy the whole thing up. There we go, that's the external skirts done. Now the internal ones, squaring them up. Now it is a good idea sometimes to have a peg, and then all this loose skirt can be pegged down. A couple of pegs along the way, and then in a short time everything grows up through there and just holds it in place. But at the moment it's a bit flappy, so a little peg made out of some hardened wire will do the job for that. And just tension it up a little bit like that, just to neaten the whole job up. Right, this is the third stage. We've obviously completed the arches, we've got the skirt on completed. Now we just throw some bird netting over the top. This is plastic bird netting. It's a second-hand stuff that I acquired somewhere a long time ago. Much easier to get this netting up with two people. There we go. Beautiful. That's it. This way. All right. It's just a matter of tidying it up now. We're going to have our entrance here. So I'm going to start tidying it up from this side. There's two types of netting clips you can use. You can use these little C-clips that just go around and close around on the net or the wire. They're cheap, quite cheap. Or you can get a magazine loaded one like this. But it's magazine loaded, so you just clip, clip, clip. You don't have to keep reloading them. They're good, but they're okay as well, just a bit slower. So just going to start clipping my way round. All right, it's this simple. Really quick. So as I go round, I'm just bunching it up near each arch here, just for tidiness and to keep it a little bit tighter. And then I'll go around, trim the whole lot so there's no loose netting laying around or laying on the ground, because that's a big issue for birds and snakes. Loose netting is not good. So this net, just like you see the finished product next door there, it's all tidy. There's no loose bits flapping around or sitting on the ground where any wild animal can get tangled in it. It's a big issue. So the black netting is much more visually pleasing than white netting, because you can see right into the food cell through the black netting. Much nicer than the white. The white just glares out at you, you can't see inside it at all. So I've decided to make the doorway. We need an access into the food cell to manage the tree, to just manage the cell in general. And so we're gonna work out the door first. I've got a little bit of a flap here so that I can lift it up like that. And we've got easy access in and out of the food cell. So I'm going to make sure that that's in the right spot and then work my way around and just trim off all the excess netting and tidy it up. The next stage is just to go and trim it off nice and neatly all the way around. Now, two more things to complete the food cell. One is to put some wire hooks here for the access door, which is going to be through here. The human access door, and then we need to cut a little door out for the chook tractor. The food cell is 99% complete, but the last little thing we have to do is put a door in so that we can connect a chook tractor into the food cell. It's a very important part, having the chickens do the work for us. That's the whole idea. This is an old chook tractor I've updated. I've got a couple of better models now, but it still does the job. That's their access door. I'm just going to line it up. Take away these little sharp corners. Okay. There you go, girls. Come on. Chook, 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 chook. Come on, girls. Come on. Chook, 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 chook. There it is. Your new food cell. Nice. As you can see, it's just clay and shale and rock in a, well, after the very first time the chooks do their business, look at them scratching. They're going to be scratching, eating, pooing. And when they're finished, we'll lightly mulch, put some seed in there, and this cell is going to explode into life. A beautiful system. You don't necessarily need animals for this sort of system to work, but if this food cell was to grow full of plants, which it will, and I've got no chickens or pigs or animals to smash it back down, then I've got to do it. And if I've got to do it by hand, that's hard work. Otherwise, I've got to use a fossil fuel, you know, like a whippersnipper or a lawnmower or whatever, to get that vegetation on the ground. These guys are doing it, and they do it for chicken feed. And, you know, they're doing pest control, weed control, ploughing, mowing, feeding us eggs and meat. You know, these guys are, and their poo, the fertility, the poo stimulates the soil biology. That's what chicken poo does. It allows that, it stimulates the biology of the soil, and soil biology is everything in an organic system. I think the most important thing humans can do as a species to look after this planet is to build soil carbon. Soil carbon is taking carbon from the atmosphere, growing it in plants, and putting it onto the ground to build soil fertility. That's carbon sequestration, and that's what chickens do if they're managed properly. That's what cattle do if they're managed properly. Pigs, all animals do it if they're managed properly. Obviously, in a feedlot situation where you're bringing agriculturally, industrially grown corn to cattle and feed them like that, that's hugely intensive and not good for the environment. But using the animals in this way, holistically, is what we need to do to survive as a species, for this planet to survive as we know it.
I'm inspired to be a part of this project because Nick has an overwhelming abundance of great ideas about how to create sustainable farming on a small scale and potentially a broadacre scale. How to create soil, how to create soil carbon, how to create sustainable farming for the good of all.
And our vision's a big one. Our vision is to turn this planet into the Garden of Eden, and for everyone to be able to live a beautiful life in paradise, in nature. And so if you've found this video useful and you'd like to support us, we've got a lot of videos, a lot of ideas, a lot of videos to come. So if you'd like to support us, go to practicarium.org, click on the link and make a small donation so we can get more videos out there for everyone, for the good of all. Thank you.
Thank you.